Then without further ado, let us welcome our guest to the Stay Awake Squadcast. We have Greg Vadnais of Botala and the GV Jazz Quartet.
What do you think of these awesome sunglasses?
Love your awesome sunglasses? Let's check them out. Yeah, I like them.
Wouldn't it be funny if that was the guy that came on and wore these and was serious?
Why not? You know, you can be in those sunglasses.
I can read
Welcome,
you my
Dragon Balls.
Huh? What's up?
What's up?
There we go.
It makes it easier for me having the sunglasses, especially with all the bright lights and stuff in my face, you know, like. And then, you know, if I'm streaming and spend 7 hours drinking and stuff, like, you know, I don't want people to see my eyes.
Yeah, we're pushing 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh, you got a drink? Cheers, man.
Yeah, indeed. I never have like caffeine drinks, but because I'm a dad and I'm usually going to sleep by now. I'm imbibing right now.
Well, we appreciate you staying up to talk to us. It's good to have you on.
I'm not seeing you on my side. Should I be seeing you?
Here, that's how you see
that
me.
helps me.
Yeah.
Good. Got it. Gotcha.
Got it.
Okay.
Greg Vadnais.
All right, yeah, man. I'm geared up and ready to go.
Yeah, I see you're in your little studio there. Is that where you do your streaming and stuff?
Yeah, well, my wife surprised me. So like my basement's got all my instruments in it, obviously. I got a couple kids too, and basements don't always sound good. And then I came home one day from work and she had like put up all these like super thick curtains. It wraps around like half of my basement, and then she hung LED lights behind it, so it's like backlit. It was so cool, and it sounds awesome.
It looks cool too. It has kind of like a cool aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a peek behind the curtain.
Yep.
Over there's like the drum. That's where it kind of peters out, right there.
Yeah, you know, so you have a cool background for streaming or doing whatever, you know.
Yeah, and we did a bit of that during the lockdown, because you know doing this stuff, and that's the other thing, man. I was super happy when I saw you had something going. It's so like, you know, having the idea. Everybody wants to do it, you know, but like following through and actually starting one that's a lot of work, man. So I'm actually really proud to see you do it, and that's why when I saw you post something, I was like, good job, man. I wanted to encourage you for that.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been, you know, it's funny, like, and I'm reaching out to these different bands and stuff, and like, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? I can ask them and they could say no or whatever, but a lot of people have been cool and been like, oh yeah, I'd love to come on and do a podcast, you know, so it has been really fun.
I think it scratches the itch that a lot of performers have to like want to. I mean, everybody that I know. I mean, shit, man. When you and I met, I'd never met you before, and I could have talked to you all night long. So
we had like a 2-hour conversation, which is probably what we'll do.
And I
here.
think that musicians. I think a lot of musicians, like, you know, it's performative and like it's got performance and gear, and like so you get to nerd out on a whole new set of gear, and then you know you get to talk to people. So
yeah, it's awesome.
You know.
It's like a whole new age of like for musicians, you know, like musicians love coming on and talking on podcasts and saying stuff. It's not just like it was anymore where like, oh, you're a musician, you release an album, you come out, shred solos, like, and you're all mysterious and you don't say anything, you know, like, no, people want you to engage them as an artist these days. You know, you got to be somebody who's willing to talk and share.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too, because I was telling my wife, I'm like, I think I'm probably way older than the crowd, you know, or than like, I definitely know I'm older than you, but, and I was thinking back to like the way that music was when I was growing up, where you had no access like whatsoever to anything that was going on. Local bands were like, there was like it was all surrounded by myth. You could get liner notes from stuff that you bought at the record store, but you had no idea who people were. Like, you just heard stories about who people were. You could never like meet someone or listen to them talk ever, you know.
You didn't know their persona.
That's another cool thing about this. No, no. I mean, you just heard rumors and then you hoped that, they were true or not
And then you
true.
meet them and
And
they're assholes, you know. I've had that happen. You know, you
yeah, it
never know when you
happens.
go and meet your heroes if they're gonna be complete dicks or like super sweet and want to hang out and have a beer. You know, I've had it go both ways.
Yeah, yeah, and that, and man, I definitely like, I never know how, we all live in our own heads so much. So you think, like, I know how I intend to come off or like what I hope people would think, but then I'm like, man, I wonder what the perception of me as a person is, and I just always try to fight against like. There's no way that somebody could say I was an asshole in that situation, but I could always think back to times when I could definitely have been perceived that way, and it's mostly with people that are closest to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've struggled with the same thing, and that's an artist thing. You know, you're always struggling with those things, like how am I coming off, or you know, what do people perceive of me? That's kind of just shit you have to ignore, you know, and keep pushing, because otherwise it'll eat you
Well, and
up.
you
You
want stuff
know.
to be and I mean, from the when you're dealing with music people, like musicians and people around the business, it's like you want things to be a certain way. You want you want the experience or an event or a band or a song to be like a very specific thing, and there's like that soft control where you want to have like both hands on the wheel and steer it in one direction, and then but then also you realize you got a group of people in the car with you and everybody's kind of got one hand on that wheel, and you just have to decide when to steer it, one way or the other.
Right. It's not fully in your control. You know.
No, control's an issue
So
for
you
me.
just you gotta roll with the punches. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, you do your own solo project, you know, so you have full control of that. And
That
being in a
was
band, dude, being in a band's hard. Like having multiple people all together doing the same shit, it's one of the hardest things I think.
Yeah. Somebody just said it's a Ouija board. Nobody is controlling it, but everyone is.
Right, right.
Totally,
That's a good
totally.
analogy, KGB.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I've been in so many bands, and like when I realized that I wanted to be a musician instead of just a member of a band, I was in my early 20s in Colorado. I like really been hardcore, like just playing with this one group, and we went to Costa Rica and lived down there and played and lived together. And then when I came back from that, I was like, I'm just gonna play with whoever I want to play with now, because that was like emotionally and spiritually and musically one of the most challenging things I'd ever done, is try to play with the same group and it was like the real world in the jungle with a bunch of psycho. Not no, they were the sweetest guys who I loved, and in my formative years. But anybody. I mean, your own family, your girlfriend, wife, kids, anything that you're around all 24 hours a day for months on end is, and that was living and working together for such a long time. That's when I was kind of like, hey, I think I can just play. I want to just like play with whoever I want to play with,
Yeah.
and I kept an open door policy ever since then. And that was I think that made it easier when I moved to Michigan to like not be not have anybody's feelings get hurt or have it taken wrong when I had like other things going on. I sort of felt like I think as you mature as an artist or like a musician, you find things that you want to do. One thing doesn't always feed that creative inspiration. You want to like move it around, move
Totally,
the
dude.
Ouija board.
And
What do
I'm
they call
still
that?
young,
The
but
trunchet? What is it?
I've felt that a little bit, you know, like growing up, I always wanted to do metal and punk, and like, oh, it's the only thing I want to do. But I like spreading out and being like, well, maybe I want to try this, and maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do a solo project, or whatever. Like, you grow up and you realize it's not all just this one thing, this one lifestyle or kind of music.
No, and it's funny. That was the other thing too that I knew when I met you at first. I knew that we're meeting in like different musical
Yeah.
avenues. But when I grew up, man, I was super. I grew up in the in the 80s, 90s, and I was a Metallica dude, and like when grunge music happened, I was just turning into a teenager when like metal became grunge, and I liked. I mean, as a drummer, that was kind of like where any drummer's heart was at, and any musician. I mean, the '90s is an undeniable time for awesome like rock
Hmm.
music. And
Oh
I
yeah.
go back there now all the time when I ride my bike, and I've got, I listen to so many different things, but I go back to that well a lot. And then having, I have a 14-year-old son who's got great taste, really big ears, and I mean, we listen to, I always check out what he's listening to, and he steered me back into the Foo Fighters and reconnected with Queens of the Stone Age. Like, I caught that stuff when I was living out in Colorado. I was aware of it, but I was so in the world music thing that I just kind of had my attention was somewhere else. But going back to that now, having kids and like digging back into rock music, it's been really cool. And I a producer friend of mine, I was like, man, I want to play in a rock band. Like, I just want to smash. There's sometimes that like that's absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
especially as a
Absolutely.
drummer.
And you should be able to do, as a musician, you shouldn't be stuck to a genre. You should be able, oh, I want to do this kind of song now. I want to do reggae, or I want to do
Exactly.
real funk song. Like, and bands get stuck in that. I feel like, and it shouldn't
Well,
be that way.
it's easy to. Well, it just depends on who's writing the songs and like what works for you. But it breaking that habit of being stuck in your same bag of tricks, is it's a huge challenge, man. And I'm always impressed. I don't care what kind of music it is. That's why I'm so impressed by like any band with original music. I don't care what it is. Writing a song is so hard.
Yeah, dude.
Um, you know,
Absolutely.
Writing music. And when I hear, songwriters or friends of mine that can complete projects or like communicate their sound the way they want to, I'm like, man, that's beyond music. Like, that's a whole other thing, man. That is so impressive to me.
It's a deep level of like finding yourself. Like, oh, you can create this something
Yeah.
out of nothing.
Yeah, it's
It's
like,
art.
and it's like knowing how to use the tools in the toolbox, because you know, I'm surrounded by instruments and stuff, and I have all the software, and if there's nothing that I couldn't find sound wise that I couldn't get my hands on at this point in my life. But at the end of the day, it's the guys with like a Casio keyboard, a microphone, and like grungy shit that make a sound happen that's totally their own. And I guess I'm speaking in a circuitous way about Eric Jakeway, who's a good friend of mine, from the Pistol Whips, but he does so much like original solo stuff that no one's ever heard. And when he plays it, I'm like, man, how are you not producing like he if he got it in the right person's hands, I swear to God, the guy is just like a hit machine. But he's a sweetie pie.
That's the
Do you know Eric?
craziest thing. No, I don't. I don't know.
Okay,
But
he's from up here.
uh, there's a lot of people, in the world that's like incredible talent, and it just goes unnoticed, because they never get the chance to record or meet the right person. And it's like, dude, more people should know about this.
In my experience, it's mostly the guys. Like, it's usually the people with the most talent that you hear the least from,
Yeah.
until you get to a city. Or I guess I'm always most surprised by when I'm always taken aback when I hear somebody where I'm like, where are you from? Like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? How this happened? And I like being surprised like that.
Where, like, you mean as a, like, Michigan, where we're from? Like, why would you be here as a super talented musician? Like, because
Or
really,
just
this
being
isn't.
surprised.
It's not a hub for getting big. If you want to play shows and get noticed, this is not the spot to do it. We've got some cool bars and some venues and stuff, but
It's a cooler music scene than people give it credit for, I think, because I get around the state quite a bit, and
mm,
everybody's got a chip on their shoulder about their spot. But the reality is, especially in the summertime in northern Michigan, I mean, everybody comes up here. You know, the musicians, the festivals happen usually, and you know, it is a hub in the summertime, and then there's a year-round thing. I think there's more musicians playing up here than people realize, you know, in all these different places. And I get up to Sheboygan and Charlevoix and Petoskey and Gaylord and Boyne occasionally. I play less in my hometown than anywhere else I play. I get down to Traverse and Elk Rapids a bit, and then I go down Lansing and Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids, and you know, it's cool. Everybody's got their like, you know, migratory range that they travel in, and then there's the people that kind of go between. And then when you kind of start putting that puzzle together, you're like, oh, this is a neat little Michigan scene that we've got going on
It
here. It's
really
really
is.
cool.
And a lot of those bands and everybody support each other, and they share shows like, you know, with Biomassive and Stormy Cromer and all them, and tons of bands. It's like, oh, you come up and play a show with us at Union or whatever, and then you come play Blind Pig and all that shit. Like, you know, it's really
Yeah,
cool. And that's important for bands to do, to have that support system and networking.
big time. You know, and that, you know, being so I've got fingers in all these different pies, and the jazz stuff that I do, sometimes jazz scenes can be really precious about who gets to be where and who's who and all that sort of thing. But honestly, especially in that community, the people that like the real like monster players are usually the coolest people, and the ones with the open door policy where it's like, if you're in town, you show up, you know, get on stage or play, and it's very, you know, I mean, within reason. You can't always walk on stage and play an arrangement, you know, especially in the jazz context, depending on who's playing what. But you know, that's what that scene really should be, and really any music scene, but especially with the jazz thing, where it is kind of like they're jam sessions, you know, traditionally, and there's performances, but then everybody should figure out how to play together, you know.
Especially with
And
jazz, I agree.
yeah, and I see that more than I don't. And you know, everybody's got long memories in these music scenes, so reputations develop, and you know, the clock keeps on ticking, and you know, the young guys grow up, and then one day you're an old guy in a scene full of young guys, and like I'm kind of right on that precipice where I'm looking over both edges of that fence, and just and just trying to be like, I'm alive, I'm still here.
Well, I don't know if you heard me. I was saying that we were watching your videos. Like, I could tell you. I know Ron Getz, but it's like, you know, that you're just playing with these three dudes who are like legends, and they've been doing this for years, and they just still tear it up, you know, and they know that they fucking crush it.
Well, and it's so funny to play with those guys. I really enjoy. I got really, really lucky. And actually, what it was with that quartet was I just got sick of waiting for the phone to ring. And then that's the same thing with any band, with any kind of project you've got. Like, nobody is sitting around. And I say this all the time when I do these things. It's like, nobody's waiting to call you. Like, you've got to make stuff happen if you want to do it. And so I was like, well, shit, I'll just hire these. I'm just hiring musicians. So I think I called Bruce. I can't remember who I called first, but I was like, hey, if I got some gigs, would you want to play? And we got together, played through a set. I think maybe the first time we did it was at Shorts. And I got Ron and Bruce, and I don't even know if we had a horn player then. And then I met Chris Bickley. Chris is an animal. I mean, that guy, he is just an absolute beast. He plays tenor, alto, soprano.
Yeah,
And
dude,
then
that's what I was
two
gonna say.
different
That, I
size
don't know
flutes.
that guy, but he's crazy, dude. I could tell, like, watch the videos. Like, this guy
He is
rips shit up, and he knows it.
just such a musician. And the thing is, he's a playful guy, and like, he's fun. He's a lot of fun to have on the bandstand. He's a goofball, and everything's light with him. So especially in jazz, like, you know, some people can be really like kind of stuffy, but that's not fun. It's not fun to like worry about, you know, when you're playing all like constipated and stuff. Like, it's not going to be it's not going to be musical. So it's good to feel free. And sometimes when you meet new musicians and you want to impress somebody or you want to like not mess up, you end up playing really stiff.
Yeah.
And I had to get over some of that with those guys because they're like so much more mature than I am as players. But anytime that I loosen up and I get to like, the look back and the nod, I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, it's okay.
I did something good.
People like, yeah, people like to cut loose, you know? And I got, honestly, I got some of like the hardest looks in my life, um, with, so like my background with the world music thing was in Colorado. I got into West African music when I was in my early 20s. I was in a band with a guy who's like, "Oh, you should check out this West African drum and dance thing." And I was like, "Okay," just I had no idea what it was. And I went to a studio with him, and it was like the shreddingest percussion. I'd never heard music like that before,
Mhm.
and it was basically here's a stick and here's a little bell part, and you just play a really simple rhythm, but it's a polyrhythm with like seven other people, and I didn't I didn't know not to deviate. So I'm like, okay, I kind of got that. So maybe if I'll do this, and man, I got some stink eyes. I mean, I was like, oh, no, okay, don't do that. Okay, I won't do that. I'll just play my part. I'll just play my part. And I feel that, I still carry that sometimes with me into new music scenes or the jazz world where you want to be, you want to be careful about stepping outside of the boundaries when you're just a side man, which I
Right.
am as a drummer,
Everybody
side man.
plays their part, and and we do open
Yeah.
mic and stuff, and I notice that's like everybody wants to be so busy all the time. It's like sometimes, dude, you're just not playing anything. And I noticed that with your lead guy, Bruce. Like he sets his shit down and he just stands there and lets everybody else do their thing. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that musicians are always like, fuck, I need to be doing something crazy to impress everybody or whatever. It's like it's almost better if you do less.
It's so hard, man. The less is more is like, it is so hard to like sink into that and trust it
Yeah.
and turn that voice off in your head that's being like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing enough. I've been doing this too long. And like and you get that sort of warped sense of time in a song of like, I feel like I've been doing this for like 5 minutes. And, if you record or you listen back, you're like, dude, that was like 45 seconds of something that you finally locked into. And then the
And then you're
minute
jumping
that,
the gun and changing
yeah,
it to something else. Yeah.
yeah, it's a battle, man. You're fighting yourself, and then hopefully, anytime that I'm wandering or feeling doubtful, I'm like it, it starts to turn on like, dude, you're thinking too much. Shut up, just shut up and listen. And that's, as a drummer, like, just listen. And any musician, any instrument, it's just like, shut up and listen. And if you stay in time and you're not too loud, if you just shut up and listen, you're cruising along, man. You're just cruising along in the song and you're doing your job, and people will call you back and they'll want to play with you, and you'll be helping the song instead of fighting with somebody else in the music, fighting for space. Are you a bass player? I can't
Yeah, I'm a
remember.
bass player. So that's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
It's most
okay.
important with bass and drums to be like that, to not overthink it and kind of just go off feeling, those are the two hardest instruments. I feel like that where you do that, where you're like, oh, I've been doing this for too long, I need to change. It's not, dude. You need to sit back and, hold the rhythm down. Drums and bass, most important for doing that.
Well, and I got my younger son, my older son plays guitar, and my younger son, I had him on drums, but then, we wanted a bass, and I've been sitting down. We got a pretty, you can buy really like decent instruments when you want to for beginner instruments. I got a really nice little Yamaha bass, and I sit down and I'm like, man, I really, I've listened so much my whole life to all this stuff, but to sit down with a bass and like play through a song and be like, oh, this is what's going on. I'm like, okay. And immediately have that voice be like, well, okay, where's the fill? Like, where's the other thing? And immediately the voice goes to, how do I do more? And instead of just like sink into the fucking groove, man, play just play the simple notes. It's such an awesome part of the music. And like I said, it's really hard to do it right. And then, when you hear a great bass line, when you hear a good bass player or a great rhythm section, most of the time it's because they're not doing too much,
Yeah.
depending,
Less is
unless
more,
they're
like you
supposed to
said.
be. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the more people you have playing, it's especially true. If everybody's trying to do these crazy fills and solos and stuff, it ends up sounding muffled and doesn't all fall in
Yeah.
together. If everybody just calms
Well,
down.
yeah. Arrangements are like an important part of, having an idea for a song or whatever the music might be. Playing the arrangement or the changes, is kind of like you got to have that, but then being musical and dynamic in that too. And the volume, the other big thing for me as a drummer, is like, and as a teacher or like an elder in a community, or whenever I'm one of the older people in a band, trying to get everybody to understand like volume dynamics and how to start at a dynamic level where you can come up and down. It's hard to do,
Like
man. That's a
louder
hard thing to
isn't
learn
always
too.
better. You don't have to play on 10.
Well, or if you start at 10, like find out what you just, and for like harder music, like rock stuff. I mean, when you listen to somebody like even the Foo Fighters or Queens of the Stone Age, I'm just thinking of those two bands specifically
Hmm.
because I was listening to them today with my kid, listening to parts, and they're loud bands, but just a dynamic shift doesn't even have to be a volume thing as much as like for a drummer to break it down to a hi-hat part, or like the floor, a lot of cool stuff people do with floor toms, take cymbals out completely,
Uh-huh.
go like ride a floor tom, or like the rim of something,
Doing
keep
build-ups and
that,
stuff, don't always
well,
start
just
out
keep
fast
it,
and hard.
well, keep the energy, keep the tempo and the energy going, but like you don't have to be crashing on every quarter note. I mean, that's where 10 is, and then you can keep that same speed and intensity, pulling back a little bit, with some of the instruments, and finding out, like, doing that in a rehearsal or doing it in a song, and having everybody be like, oh, that was, that needed to happen,
Uh-huh.
and then realizing that, okay, because now from there we can go back up to that other point, and that's where you can play with the crowd a lot more, play with the energy a lot more. It's hard to go at 10 through a whole show, you know,
And you
and
shouldn't.
feel like you're doing anything. No. And, by the third set, it's a sloppy mess when it's
Right.
like that, because so loud. I mean, I've played in bands before where I can't hear myself, and I'm like, I'm the drummer. Like, there's no way I should be the quietest instrument on stage. But that was the other thing I used to say is like, try to try to be quieter than everybody else, and it'll bring everyone down with you. But that's, for specific stuff, I guess. That's not always it's not always a good rule to follow, depending on what genre you're playing.
Especially with drums, dude, accenting and like velocity in drums, that you change the whole feel of the song. Somebody could be playing the same riff and you're like building it up, playing super light, and then they're playing the same riff, but then you bust it in and it's like heavy now. You control the song. You're only as good as your drummer. I've always said that. Like whatever the drummer's doing is what the song is. It's a lot of
Yeah,
pressure,
there's a
dude.
lot of potential for train wrecks, for sure. You know, I was lucky to start early. I grew up with a kid in the house, and not a ton of encouragement necessarily, but nobody ever told me not to do it. Actually, I don't want to say not a ton of encouragement. I never took lessons, and I never like played in school, but I was always in bands. I think owning a drum set when I was a kid was like your ticket into a band. That was the
Oh
reason
yeah.
I ended up in my first band, is because I owned a drum set. It was my dad's, and my parents drove me. I think about this sometimes because I'm a parent, and I've got kids that my oldest son is kind of like, I think he's right about the age I was when I started playing with the band, and my parents drove me to like a college party when I was 15 or 16 to play with one of the bands I was with. And I can't imagine doing that at all. I'm like, what were you guys
Right, you're gonna
thinking?
have
They had
worries like, oh man, what am I taking my kid to? Like,
I don't know. I maybe I who knows? I mean, my parents are great. I'm
sounds like you have
lucky in that
supportive
regard too. My
parents.
parents, they were super cool. I just would never have done that. I mean, I can't imagine doing that with my kids. And it wasn't like it was even a bad thing. It was, I mean, ultimately, it was a good thing for me as a musician. But I mean, they didn't. Maybe they knew more than I knew, or maybe I'm misremembering how that went down. But I do recall getting dropped off at a party. I grew up in East Lansing, and like getting dropped off at a party downtown, and with my band, and setting up in a basement and playing our, we were like, grungy, grungy Nirvana cover band with some other stuff, some originals, and I can't imagine how that party wasn't like a total train wreck, but it was fun.
And that's
I
so
didn't drink any
crazy.
beers.
How can you go from that being in a grunge band to like, okay, I want to play jazz now or do
I don't
world
know, man.
music?
It was just, well, starting to listen. Like I was listening to music. I used to mow lawns. So when I grew up, I had, have you ever seen those yellow like Sony Walkmans
Oh yeah.
so like and one of those with the sealed up yellow Sony Walkman. I used to mow lawns, and I'd mow lawns to the same like 5 tapes or 6 tapes, and then I'd listen to that on the bus on the way to school, and then CDs came out, and you just listen so much to music. I think that you condition yourself to listen, and as I grew up, um, you just kind of follow. I just started following my ears, and we didn't have, the internet didn't even really become a useful tool for music. I mean, shit, man, that didn't happen until I was in my 20s. But in my teens, it was just listening to cool music, and everybody listened to different stuff. And I went to a cool school with people, so I was listening to like hip hop and grunge and rock music, and then funk. And funk was a big thing. And then everybody that had older brothers and sisters that were in, college, they got turned on to stuff that way. I had an older sister who was really cool, and she had like pretty good taste in music. So I got into like the Red Hot Chili Peppers when I was in 6th grade, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just listening and and playing and listening when you're young. I think you just it sets off some kind of like curiosity radar. And so I'm always listening for different sounds. And then when I started hearing, the tabla, which is the Indian drums, in some music that some friend of mine played for me. And I was like, what is that? And I couldn't, sometimes when you hear something and you can't figure out like what's making that sound,
Yeah.
um, that when I started hearing Indian music, I was like, what are these instruments? Because like you could tell that it was like it's extremely refined, and it was extremely specific, and and I could tell even then that it was evolved and technical on the level of like classical music. I just didn't know that it was Indian classical music. I just, and you don't think about things that way. If you hear that music and you're passing by, you're like, oh, it sounds like a yoga studio. But as a musician, you're like, how are they doing that? So I started kind of like picking around um, record labels and trying to read liner notes and find out who people were. And then I ended up in sort of getting into that ethnomusicology arena, and well, all the time while I was also playing drums and like being super into funk, and trying to learn jazz and that sort of thing. But all of those sounds sort of intermingle at a certain level. And, we had a great record store, FBC, Flat Black and Circular, in East Lansing. Those guys growing up were so cool. You could go in there and they'd be playing stuff, and you ask about it, and then they'd show you things. I mean, I got handed a lot of really cool music by adults that could have been total assholes to me or dismissive, but were like they fed me great music to listen to, and it just kept me going, and then I was like, oh, so you just do that. It's just like when you're reading a book and you like a certain author and they start talking about other authors, you start reading the stuff that those authors are talking about, and you just kind of find your way.
Right, being inspired or influenced, by other people.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
music is, any of your favorite artists were just inspired by somebody else who did something and they took it and kind of made it their own.
exactly.
Or
Everybody's got
with
influences.
any kind of art, with cooking or whatever, it's like it's just all shit that's been taken from previous people and then improved upon.
Yeah, yeah, man. We're just like repeating. We're just repeating sounds, that we've heard before, and like trying to replicate it, trying to figure out, and that's something I battle with sometimes when I'm even thinking about what I'm doing on the kit or with the Botala things. It's like I really am just trying to get my head around what I like, and if I stumble across something that's actually something I came up with or that's my own, it's because I was playing in somebody else's sandbox for so long that I accidentally made my own little thing, my own little
That's the
lump in the
coolest part.
sandbox.
I'm always doing that, dude, with my buddy who I write music with and stuff, and like, if he writes something, I'll be like, I know exactly where you got that from. Like, I know what you're thinking of, like what riff and what band, like, and it's
Yeah,
it's cool for me to hear that in people. Like, I know exactly where your influence came from.
yeah, yeah, totally. And to be unselfconscious about that and be like, man, I think this is cool, and like it fits here, and and you hear that a lot in jazz and things like that. People play little quotes of songs, and I hear that in people's music all the time. They're just like they'll throw you little breadcrumbs of other things, and you could answer back with your own thing or whatever it is. It's very playful, and
Yeah,
I think it's yeah, I enjoy it.
music, dude, it's the universal language. Somebody asked me that, and I was like, absolutely, music is the one thing that everybody can understand, even if you can't speak the same language. You hear music the same, it's
I've
it can
been
be
I've been in
understand by
those.
anybody.
Well, and I've been in those rooms too. I've been in rooms with guys from Africa and, Central America and the Caribbean that have a tenuous grasp on English but speak three other languages and are just slamming musicians. And, you sit right down and, I mean, and they just take right off. And it's awesome to see that happen. And that's actually, it's funny. So it was about 3 days ago. One of like the main guy who brought djembe music, which is djembe is like the goblet shaped drum from
Yep.
West Africa. His name was Mamadi Keita, and he left Guinea back in the 70s. I think he went to Belgium, and he brought this whole method of teaching traditional West African drum and dance, out of Africa to Europe and then eventually to the United States. He just passed away at the age of 70 a few days ago, and he developed a school of learning this specific, way of learning djembe and dun and these different instruments. And if you go to like any drum and dance scene in the entire world right now, everybody plays the same versions of these traditional rhythms because Mamadi brought them, you know, around and taught other teachers how to teach them. So you go to Mexico City, Japan, China, Singapore, all over Europe and all over the U.S. I mean, you can sit down at a dance studio anywhere, whether or not you speak the language, if you know those rhythms and count it off, and you're playing the same thing. It's pretty awesome, and I've seen that too. It's pretty amazing, and it was actually pretty sad to see that he passed because he wasn't that old. He was only about 70, but he influenced like he influenced generations of people
Right.
that are interested in that stuff, and my teachers and I met him and learned from him as well, a little bit, but it was it's that thing though where he brought that language of djembe out to the rest of the world, and it's pretty amazing how just one person can influence an entire planet with their music that way. I mean, we lived through an era where they'll look back and say, when did djembe leave, West Africa? It was when Mamadi left and went to Belgium and brought it out there. I mean, it's the same. It'll be told with the same type of folkloric, zeal as people talk about jazz and classical music or grunge in the 90s.
That's the beauty of it, man. That really is. So you've been playing some shows. How's that been? Been getting back into it and acclimating, and things are
Yeah,
kind of normal.
Yeah, it's I'm trying not to like even think. It was weird when the calendar started filling up. I was actually kind of like I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah, you're almost like
I
overwhelmed. Like, oh shit! Like,
Well,
I gotta
you
play
get
again.
used to yeah, kind of, and like pack up, and it's a grind, man. Like, and my biggest gripe was that I mean I did so much work to book all these things for like 2 years prior to everything shutting down. I really was putting a lot of work into like the jazz quartet, the Botala project, and then I was playing with John Archambault band, a blues band, really good guy, great guitar player, and I was kind of you know lightening up on those gigs and eventually kind of backed out of that band on great terms with John. But yeah, I kind of like had everything to where it was automated, where I knew who I was talking to, where I wanted to go, and kind of like how the calendar was going to lay out, which is super hard to get to that point, And so when that all fell apart, I was like, ah, shit, man. It was
That's
like
disheartening.
yeah, it was like that Office episode where Kevin's carrying the bucket of chili. He's like, it's the thing that I do best. It's the one thing that I do best. And he drops it on the. I just felt like that. I was like, ah, fuck, it's all gone. So yeah, when it all started kicking back up, I was surprised that it kind of started out. I wasn't even really asking. The the places got a hold of me and I was, I wasn't going to say no because I knew that the guys that I was playing jazz with, I knew they wanted to play, and I did want to play. I just didn't feel like inspired at all. Like my inspiration level was at like a 2 out of 100. I just didn't feel like I was depressed. I don't have the vocabulary to express depression, but I was definitely
After a
depressed.
whole year and a half of not being able to do it and everything that happened, I can understand that. But I'm sure once you got going and you're at the show and you're playing, it feels fucking great, dude. Like, cause that's what I mean. Doing open mic and stuff, it felt so good to just be like back on stage with my friends playing. Like,
Yeah,
but I had those same
it
thoughts.
is.
Like, fuck, I gotta load up all this gear. What if no one shows up? What if we don't remember how to play songs? Like, all those thoughts come. That's just again those thoughts you have to fight.
So I had two. So with the Botala thing, there's the idea of there's what I tell myself it is, and then there's the reality of what it is. And I used to travel with so much gear with that project that I would use because I had it with me. And then I was like, what am I actually doing? So like I pared that down, and it's essentially a DJ set that I play instruments over top of. When I do it live, it's really hard to like I'm so impulsive, and like the improvisational nature of how I think. Like I don't like to plan things. I never do things the same way twice. So for that project in particular, I was like, you know what, man, I really just kind of wing it. So I'm just gonna bring a lot less stuff. So the first time I went though, I hadn't packed my car in like a year and a half for that gig. So I was like, I'm gonna forget something. I know I am.
Uh huh.
Dude, the first two shows, I remembered everything plugged in and worked, and I didn't fumble any like transitions or whatever it is that you do with that DJ setup. Like nothing, I didn't fall on my face like I expected to, which I had in the past. I'm gonna reach into the fridge here and grab something.
Nice. You got the little
Um,
mini fridge. I got the same thing right next to me.
my wife got that for me too. She really takes care of me, you know. Sometimes I
It
wonder,
sounds like
but
it.
as it
It's
turns
like you
out,
got your studio all set up. No, so I was
she's
watching your stream and the one that you did on Facebook, and you do have this elaborate, huge setup of full circle drums and different DJ boards and computers and stuff. There's a lot going on there, you know, just for this one
there's a
project where
lot.
it's just you.
Yeah. Well, at its core, I just wanted a way to play world music. Um, you know, I love Afrobeat. I mean, I can play with a band any of that stuff, but like getting a 13-person Afrobeat orchestra together is
Damn
fairly
near
unrealistic
impossible. Yeah.
at this point in my life. I mean, like the dedication it takes to have one rehearsal for that many people is insane. I mean, I'm impressed by anybody that's got a band bigger than 4 people,
Yeah,
you know.
having a four-person punk
Um,
band is it could be hell.
yeah, no, it's
Between people having kids and addiction, or you know, just all the stuff that comes with it, you know.
you have to really, really want. I mean, there's got to be something there for you. It can't feel like an obligation. You know what I mean?
And it's gonna
And
hurt
so
sometimes. It's gonna feel not worth it, you know. But if you really care about it, you're gonna
the
keep
I mean
pushing.
the packing and the driving alone, like that part of it to me, like that was the thing that I was kind of getting my hackles up about. I was like, oh, this fucking packing, and it's solitary, man. Like a solo. So here's the thing: have you done a solo project before?
No, I never have actually done a solo project. I'm always
Okay,
better
I
with a
hadn't
band
either.
behind me.
Me too. I sit behind, and I realize, you know, I'm 41 years old. I've sat behind people my whole life, and I haven't, you know, and if I have a mic, I can say shit and hide, and it doesn't matter. But I've never had to be the guy that like brings the show, and I am not, and trust me, like I'm standing in front of people with this Botala thing. I'm showing up and I'm doing the bare minimum, but it's an extremely solitary endeavor, and I don't have any like there's nobody's with me on that, and I don't usually know, you know, I like talking to people, but there's so many things to do. So you bring all the stuff, you load in on your own, you set everything up, make sure you've got it, make sure you got enough time, everything works. Grab a beer, get your head together. Try maybe if you're feeling like you're not intimidated, you can go around and talk to the staff or whatever. But then you start the show. I don't know how to take breaks when I'm just solo DJing, so I play solid for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
Then it's done, and in that
you gotta
time, maybe
pee
two or
real
three
bad,
groups.
you know.
I've snuck off, but also like the turnover in the crowd, like so there's like the people that were there when you started, then there's like the middle of the night, then some of them leave, then there's like the late night people, or you know, late set people. So there's like basically there's turnover of probably 2 or 3 times the people that came and went, and then you're done, and then you pack up, and it's like shit, man, I got an hour drive to back home, so load up and pack up. It's really it's lonely, you know.
Yeah,
It's like it's a lonely endeavor, and you know, if you get 1 or 2 people that are psyched about it, it feels good, and you know, like you can hang on to that compliment for a few minutes, and then it's gone, and then you're back into
it's
the
fleeting.
tornado of self doubt and self hate, uh, and that's way easier to navigate when you've got 4 other people with you that you can, you know, grab a side of an amp, or like, you know, ride with or whatever. But I like doing stuff on my own, but that that is something that I didn't anticipate, and I definitely I can like share that heartache with some of the other solo artists out there. I kind of get more of what that is now, having done it a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a give and take too, man. You know, like it's not, you know, sure you feel lonely, but you don't have all the stress of like you know, fighting with the band, you know, or disagreements, and this doesn't always happen. It's not always like that, but those things do come with it, you know. Or it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, exactly. And you know, I've gotten to that point with other bands before too.
It always
And
happens.
yeah, and you know, that's one thing I'll say about a band dynamic is, you know, and so my dad's like a military guy, and his attitude was always lead, follow, or get out of the way. And you know, I was kind of like shrugged my shoulders about that. But then the more bands I've been in, it's like you kind of intuitively know who's in charge of of certain things at a certain time. But sometimes when nobody's making decisions, you're like, well, shit, somebody just needs to decide,
Yeah.
that this is what's going to happen. But the more you do that, and I've found this with some projects, like the more that you find yourself making decisions,
There's resentment.
it can
You
come
know?
off as, well, there's that, and then you start getting frustrated. Yeah, you start getting frustrated with the people that always don't care. It's like, do you care or
Why
don't you
am I
care?
making all the decisions? Like, why do I have to do it all?
Yeah, but
And
that's a delicate balance too, because
I know
then
my
when you're
spot.
asking for input, go ahead.
When we're doing open mic or whatever, like I know I'm the guy. Like, okay, so I have these two good musicians, Calvin and Jake, who play with me. They're very like incredible musicians. They can play anything. I don't consider myself this incredible musician who can do tons of stuff. I know they're gonna back me up, make me sound good, but they don't like to talk in the mic so much. Me, I'm very
Yeah,
comfortable with like being hype and shouting stuff out and announcing and talking loud. That's my thing. I know that's my role that I play.
important role,
It is. It's such an
honestly.
important role. There's got to be the guy who talks. And you were
Yes,
saying you don't do that much even, and you get the new. That's one of the things I'm trying to remember. Like as new people roll in, you see people come in and then leave. You almost got to like repeat yourself and say the same shit that you said, and not feel stupid about it.
it does. It's so hard to do that, and it's so important, and it's like you just gotta like bite the bullet, and I've forced myself to do that at the with the Botala project. I've really I've introduced it because I realize like nobody knows what I'm doing, but you feel at the same time like everybody can read my mind and they can see through me. They know that I'm full of shit and that I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing, like all that stuff. But it's
You
like
get the
no,
weird. You hear a little laugh. You're like, are they laughing at the way I'm talking? Like again, you just have to
that
like
I haven't
block
done.
that shit
I
out.
haven't gotten. I haven't gotten in my head that bad yet, but that's there for sure. But
Right.
also, and man, I'm sure you've got some of this too. Like I've got a this sort of a contempt. Like I have a real chip on my shoulder sometimes. So I'll go into a gig sometimes with a confrontational attitude. Like, I hope somebody says something about what I'm doing because I'm so defensive. Like I'm so ready to defend the thing that I'm doing against any questioning. I've had to like consciously tell myself like nobody's coming at you the way you
Yeah.
think they are. You know what I mean?
Like you're almost ready to start a fight or complain about it or whatever. I get that
Or
totally, but
just or just like I'm defensive because I know that the music that I'm playing with like for the Botala thing, like it's none of it's in English. Well, I'm using more stuff with English, some more like R&B stuff as well, some more soul music to mix in there. But for the most part, it's African and Caribbean and Brazilian music in Portuguese or Wolof or Spanish. So it's a lot to ask of an audience in northern Michigan who, let's face it, they're like wandering into a brewery or whoever hired me, and like sometimes I have people that know what I do and come out for it. And a lot of times I'm just like in a room being like, this is what I do, but this is all I do. So please, don't, let's get on the same page. That's the kind attitude. But
if you don't like it,
sometimes I'm
you
like,
can leave.
you can go fuck yourself,
You get
Yeah,
out.
but there's no reason I should have that attitude, but it's just immature. It's just a really like juvenile self-defense mechanism that I set up in my own head on the drive, on a long, lonely drive to a gig where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna do what I do, and God damn it, if anybody says anything, but you just
That's a natural human thing, man. I wouldn't stress it out too much, And then it'll
no,
probably always
it's just,
happen, man. Even like some of the biggest
oh, I know.
stars and shit, they probably still feel like that before they go out on stage. Like, does anybody even really care what I'm singing or playing? You're always gonna have those feelings.
Yeah, I know, and I know it. And even when I'm confident about the project, sometimes then I'm really, I was telling somebody the other day we had someone request a Prince tune at the jazz gig, which in my mind I'm like, Yeah, that would be really cool if we did like a jazz arrangement of a Prince tune, or if that was something that somebody had done, or if there was an album out there of Prince tunes that somebody had arranged. I get that, but I realized the guy just had no idea. Like, are you listening at all to what we're doing? Like, there's we don't have a singer. Like, there's no way we're gonna just like, oh, all right, yeah, let's count that off. Which one? That's a really specific thing to ask ask
Yeah,
for
but you never
of
know
a
if you don't
jazz
try it,
quartet.
you know. But with
No,
jazz,
but
I can't
it,
speak, you know. With metal, it's a little easier to be like, let's take this song and turn it into metal, you know. All you gotta do is play this progression and put chuggy riffs on it and stuff.
well, and you could do that with a jazz arrangement as well. But I knew that's not what the guy meant. I knew he kind of thought that we were like a cover band, and I just thought, are you? The part of me wanted to take that idea and be like, I should arrange a Prince tune into a jazz tune, but nobody will ever ask for it again or care. But it's a good idea, but also contempt for this guy who obviously wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
And man, like what you said right there, that's why I would love to be in a metal band or like a rock band and just follow or push with energy and like get some of that stuff out, because as a drummer, I there's so many times where I'm playing very restrained, but I can be extremely loud. Like I'm really good at playing quiet. I will say that without any
Wow,
sense
I've never
of
heard any drummer like
bragging.
that.
I'm a really good quiet drummer. And I've been told that, and I believe it because it pains me to play that. Like I know that I'm trying so hard to play quiet so often, but I don't have an outlet for the way that I know that I can also play loud. Like I would love to play loud sometime. And I've said that. I've told a couple producers, I'm like, man, give me, if you've ever got a project where you need a drummer. It's like I can play loud. I can do it.
Well, you should come on down to open mic sometime and jam with us, dude. I like to get loud.
Is is that the Union Street?
Yep, Union Street every Tuesday, 10 to 2.
God damn. Jesus.
Yeah,
How's
it's
Union
late, I
Street these
know.
days?
Union Street, they got a band there right now. Gasoline Gypsies are playing. It looked like it was filling up. I was actually down there helping. I'm doing an event tomorrow, a catering event, and I was helping my boss or whatever load up and prep up and stuff. So I popped over there for a beer, saw Gasoline Gypsy setting up, and it looked like it was filling up, dude.
Is it all the same setup in there still? I mean, does everything look the same as it
Yeah, everything looks the
always does?
same. They've
Okay.
got that new soundboard, the Heath and Allen or whatever, Allen and Heath,
Oh wow. Wow.
Heath and Allen.
That's a fun venue, but it's also, man, that can be a dangerous place late night.
Yes.
That's a
Dude,
wild
even
that's a
being the
wild road.
host, it's like I see some shit and people are just like, by the time it's 1 a.m. or whatever, and people are wasted and it's spitting in my face telling me how awesome I am, and just like, especially getting back to it, I'm like, this is what I forgot about. I forgot that when you play shows at a bar, you gotta deal with wasted people and
Dude.
just bullshitters.
That's one thing. Yeah, that's one thing about doing early like jazz gigs, like dinner stuff and the DJ thing. You are an alchemist of drunken energy in that room, and you've got to fucking own that thing, man. Like you have to be in control. You have to be in control, because the minute that you give any power to that crowd, I've seen. I mean, I've been on that stage a lot, and it is, it can be scary.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. But yeah, man, it's good to have the attitude you do about knowing that you're emceeing it a little bit, and that yeah, once you
And
once you go down those steps, down the 4 feet onto the floor,
yep,
you're
and
yeah,
then people rush you or whatever, dude. And a lot of it's like I've had to learn to be, like you said, I don't want to come off as an asshole, but you have to find that balance of being assertive, telling people no, or just walking away from people. It's like, but I don't want these people to think I'm an asshole. And there's even a few instances where I've had to kick a few musicians off the stage already. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but
yeah.
well-known
Well, that's
musicians who
good,
who were too drunk on the stage, and I had to kick them off.
dude. I've been that musician before, and you've
And
got
you'd
to.
hope that your friend would get you off the stage, like.
I had one. So this is, those moments in your life that you're always going to remember and just cringe about. You cannot erase stupid shit you've done. Like you can't, and I've tried to tell this to my son,
And
because like you're
people
going to make,
remember too.
don't
Just
tell me
you
that.
don't. People don't forget
So
shit, dude.
I was and I'll tell this because like this is the one
Please tell it.
that kind of like, this is the one that really like, and I did this in Colorado, and I don't even remember half the people that were there. I mean I know who was there, but I don't remember what band it was, why I was even on the stage in the first place. But I got on stage at this venue where, I mean, I was in the music scene, and I had this sense that like I could go on, I'd go in the green rooms, I'd go anywhere because everyone knew who I was, and I knew if I knew one or two people, and I have a couple of drinks, you get a little bit like cocky, or
Oh yeah.
overly comfortable about your boundaries.
I
I was
always take
willing to,
advantage of shows when I'm playing a show, dude.
yeah. Yeah, I was willing to violate boundaries because I felt like, well, they'll tell me if I shouldn't be there. Or maybe I didn't even think about it. I just thought like, well, I'll just go do it, whatever. I got on stage at a theater show for a band who were, I guess I didn't respect the band. Um, I didn't, because that's the only reason I would have done that, is because I did not, I didn't respect them. I know that's why I did it. And that's my like cross to bear, is the reason I did that it was totally disrespectful because I didn't respect them. And that's my fault. So I get on the stage there, and this is like a theater with a balcony and like a floor. And my wife, my girlfriend at the time, my wife, and our friends were up in the balcony, and they were like, they were like, don't do that. And at the time, I always kept a cowbell like in my jacket, and we were drinking tequila, and I had this like jean jacket, had a cowbell tucked inside of it, and I got on the percussion like area because I was like the percussionist guy in my mind. I was like, oh, I'm the percussionist, and like
Yeah.
this guy is not really a percussionist. And he was like he was like way bigger than me. He was like towered over me, big mountain dude. Like he should have knocked me out. And I like kind of got on, and I knew half the guys in the band, and I didn't care about him at all. And I got on his rig, and I started playing, and my wife and friends were like throwing ice cubes at me and trying to get me off the stage. I mean, it was such a shit show. It was so bad. And I don't think I did anything terrible, but he definitely like physically moved me off that area. And
That's
then
rock and roll,
just that
dude.
moment, totally. Well, yeah, I was like, was it? And then I realized, I'm like, oh, some flash of something told me that. I was like, well, I don't feel like I know where I should go right now, and I'm on stage at a show in a theater. And so I was like, well, I know where the side stage is. So I kind of walked off, and then like that hot flush of shame, like infected me, and I was like, oh, that was embarrassing, right? And then and then when I got off, and we walked away, out down to the river and hung out and drank tequila. But that to this day, my wife's always like, don't be that guy, don't be that cowboy guy. And I'm not. I mean, I'm an adult. I would never do that, but I absolutely know why and how those things happen, and
They
particularly
make
in
for
your
great
situation.
stories too.
Well, and it's the shame. I mean, it just. I haven't done a lot of things. Like, luckily, I've never done anything like criminally horrible that I'm totally ashamed of. But that kind of thing, like that's as close to a criminal act as a musician. It's like getting on stage and being that guy that people have to deal with, that wasn't invited and doesn't belong there. That's everyone's everyone's got to do it once.
Yeah, and then the guy, you have to, being the other guy, have the balls to be like, grab the motherfucker, or like tell him like, get the fuck off the stage right now, and nobody wants to be that guy either, like, oh, I don't want to,
Well,
there's
and
an
I
audience
shouldn't have
watching
put
and I don't want to cause a scene.
I should never have put him in that situation, and he should have knocked me out. Honestly, I mean, I'm knowing like the way that I feel about stuff like that now. I mean, he would have had every right to do whatever he wanted. I mean, he would have. I mean, he was so much better. The the gall of me to do that and to think to not even think that would be something that would happen. Another time we played at a cowboy bar. Now this was with an actual band that I played with there. There's this like town over the valley from where I lived out there, and it was like a cowboy bar, and I was visiting my friends and we were playing, and I'd had like plenty of cocktails, and I got on the mic and I was like harassing. I wasn't harassing the audience, but I was kind of being a smart ass about it being like all cowboys, and I thought it was really funny. And my buddy, who's older than me by 10 or 15 years, was like giving me the like, hey, don't, this isn't the place to do that. Like, he knew I was being a goofball, but they weren't taking it that way. And he tells me later, he's like, yeah, man, I went and sat down next to a guy who was like ready to level me, and I just went up to him and because I was just being friendly, because I didn't mean anything by it, I sat down next to the guy and I just started talking to him, and he's like, man, I don't know why, I don't know how you didn't get knocked out, of that bar. But those were two times that I started to learn my boundaries on stage.
But
you should always.
I respect your confidence of doing that still. Having the balls to go up against bigger people and not give a shit. It's an admirable thing, honestly.
It wasn't confidence. It was booze, and I've never been punched in the face, and I've never been taught that lesson for whatever reason, and I've deserved it. And
I say everybody should be punched in the face at least once to learn that lesson.
I know.
Sure.
I've got mine. I'm still owed one, and luckily now I don't put myself in that situation a lot. I don't think, but for you running a stage at an open mic, man, that's a sacred duty. And
it is, and I get stressed, man. I have a lot of fun, but like I get in these moments where I feel like I got a lot on my shoulders, and people are asking me to play, people are asking me stupid questions, and my guys are teasing me and making fun of me, and it's like there's almost not that appreciation for it, and
you're like,
I still love doing it. I wouldn't give it up.
Well, and it's that time of like, am I having fun or not? Like, is this fun? I can't remember. Is this fun? Am I having fun?
Well, it's the small moments, where we're jamming and shit just locks in, dude. And it's like I look and my boy's playing a solo and fucking dude's on the drums, and it's like, this is it. This is why I do it. This is for these few moments where it's all worth it. Or a cool person comes up and brings an accordion on the stage, and he's doing an accordion solo over our jam. It's like, this is why it's cool. This is why it's awesome. Or when a guy
there,
when a guy comes from, who came the first week and then comes next week, like, oh, we've got a returning guy who wants to play at open mic again, that feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the little things. Who's playing Kit? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Well, so that's our biggest shuffling thing. We had Chris Burgess from Medicinal Groove doing it for a while because he was always in town on Tuesdays, so he'd do it. And he told me, he's like, I'm not in town on Tuesdays anymore. We had Darren from the Brothers Crunch do it a couple times with us, and lately I've just been paying. I brought my drum kit on the first week because we had nobody, so we all kind of took turns just messing around playing on the drums. I have a real shitty drum kit, like starter Tama kit that's way trash, shitty cymbals, but it works. It's better than no kit. So I've been paying Jake, who's a guitarist. He's a really good guitarist. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff. Jake A, he's one of my good friends. Killer guitarist. He has an electric kit and he's really good on drums, so I've been paying him to just play drums, and he's been expressing like, I'm not a drummer, dude, I want to play guitar, so that's one of the other hard things about it. It's like, I need you to be a drummer, man, like, because we need a drummer. The drummer's the hardest thing to find. Everybody plays guitar.
I would say bass players are.
Yeah, well, that's why I started playing bass. I was a guitar player for 10, 11 years, and then, well, I guess everybody else plays guitar and nobody plays bass, so I'll play bass. But then I got my bass, and I ended up really liking it and loving it, and it, fallen in love with it kind of, and I still play guitar, but I consider myself a bassist now.
Good. Yeah, bass players are, you can always get work as a bass player. And that's the other
Totally.
thing I told my kids, I had them. I've not been like a dad that forces them to do anything, but I was like, you're taking piano lessons. I didn't make them
Yeah.
do anything, but I was like piano, because that to me, like that's one of those instruments that everybody that I've known when I've been in scenes where there's like accomplished musicians, I don't care what it is they play, everybody also plays piano.
Uh-huh.
And and that's what I told my kids, and my oldest, who ended up playing guitar, and he's great, and I love it. I just was like, I used to joke about it with my wife. I'm like, no guitar, no guitar. We're not buying a guitar. We've got like 5 in the house now, of course, but you know, he can play drums too. This kid, my 14-year-old can play anything.
You
It's so
should be
awesome to see.
instrumental. That's how I feel now. I play drums, I play guitar, I
Yes,
play bass, I play keys. I love doing vocals. Like,
yes,
I could write my own songs and music if I want, then hire musicians to play them, like you do.
exactly. Yeah, you should definitely have. And if you only play one other thing, well, like I told my kids, at least if you play piano, you can communicate with everybody. You can play your idea. You can explain what's going on, and you can like tell the horns what to do, and you can tell
Yeah.
the guitars what to do. It's yeah, it. And I've never thought. I mean, dude, I never thought that I was gonna end up having kids that play. That it was inevitable, but like now that they're getting, it's so funny to be like, okay, I don't want to be too much in their like way, but
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta let them spread their
but
wings, Greg.
well, but I turn everything on, everything's set up. They have like a great spot to play. I'm like, all right, go start being a band so I can play so I can play with you guys. Yeah, they're getting there.
Oh, that's cool.
They're
I'm the
getting
only
there.
one in my family, I feel like, of generations. I don't know anybody in my family who's ever played guitar or was a musician. It just was
Really?
random that I was the one who was like, all right, I'll do music.
Man, that makes it even harder, right? Because nobody gets it, and like trying to explain, it.
My mom
That's like
supported it. She bought me my first acoustic guitar, and she's always supported me, take me to band practice and stuff, and let me go to shows late night and stuff when I was like 14, 15, singing in a band.
that's great. I mean, you got to have that, and especially if they don't play music, the fact that she was supportive, that's even cooler.
Yeah.
That Yeah, that's awesome. My sister, so I have an older sister, and I mean, it's funny. So she, she was the piano player. Like, she really could play piano, and she just, you know, she never found a way to get into bands or like she never quite, I guess playing piano in the 90s, it was weird. Like, keyboards weren't really what they are now. So I think she just didn't know how to be in a band, but she's a beast on the piano. And then she's so jealous of me because I've ended up playing in bands, and now she plays guitar too. She's, so I guess I have a pretty musical family, and but I got lucky that I figured out how to gig, like how to go play shows, and you know, cracked into that world, of performing. And I think honestly, like, were you a theater kid, or did you do like
No,
plays and stuff?
never, dude.
Okay, I did that.
I
It was
respect it.
that
I think it's
like
cool.
wanting to be on stage is something I think that you know some musicians, you got to have that understanding too of like, or maybe that's one of the things like that led you there, is like, there's something about performing. Music is awesome, but being on stage with or without music, like, that's also exhilarating. And I've been part of like dance performances and these things, throughout the years, doing productions and all this sort of stuff, and it's like there's something cool about the stage and the whole like leading up to a show and like being a part of a whole production, all that stuff.
It's the
There's some kind
ultimate
of
feeling, dude.
romantic.
It's like the ultimate meditation for me, you know. I find my true happiness when I'm there, like playing a song or a gig on stage. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about what I had for lunch or my ex girlfriend or, you know, who I hate. It's just that moment, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It lets you be really present. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely something with most of the musicians I know is it's like we're pretty stuck in our heads a lot of the time, and that doesn't, and I don't mean like not in the present moment, like we're always living in resentment or jealousy or fear or like passion, all these things that take us away from being present in the moment. So like being able to check in on stage and like, okay, right now I know I got to be here, I get to be here, and like I have to do this other thing other than be in my head or other than be me. I get to be this other I get to be this like tool in a song, in service to these other people, my bandmates or whatever. And that's when you get to kind of like go away and go into that other gear. And then when
Absolutely.
that's over, you get back to the self-hatred.
Yeah, back to the self hatred. I feel like that's every musician's thing, you know. That's your thing to
Yeah.
get away, you know, and then you get to go back to self hatred, which inspires you to write more music and do more shit.
Yeah.
All right, Greg,
Book
let's
more
take
things.
let's take a 60-second break. I need to hit the bathroom. I should have
Right
gone before
on.
we started this. Just 60 seconds, guys. We'll be right back. Gives you time to go grab a beer, get some snacks. 60 seconds and we'll be right back. All right, sorry, sir. That never happens to me, I swear. We talked about earlier. I'm usually really good at holding it for 3 or 4 hours too, you know. But that
Ha,
was it. I had to do it.
I got you.
But on
No,
the
I
subject, you know, even the like doing this, the streams and stuff for me feels like a way to. It's almost like I'm on the stage, you know, but virtually.
Well, you're doing it well, man. The way that you've got this thing set up is like, this is the right way to go about it. Keeping a little comment stream going and having the split screen, doing a tech check beforehand. I mean, you got this thing dialed in, man.
I'm
And
not a professional, man. I just did this out of nowhere. Like one day I decided I was doing that, and this is the 11th episode, you know, and you're my first percussionist I've had come on. I've had different kinds of cool guests. That's the coolest thing about it is just the guests. It's not even about what I have. It's you guys who make this thing cool.
well, I know everybody likes to be asked to do stuff, and like I've done so many different like different versions of people's podcasts, and to me, like this is the way you want to do it because I've recorded them before, but there's something different between doing a pre-record and doing something that's actually like a live stream. And my wife and I did like a live stream show, sort of like an every other week live stream
I
show
remember seeing that when
during.
you guys were doing it. It looked cool, yeah.
Yeah. And it was fun because like we like to hang out and party with friends and stuff. And I figured out how to do call-ins and kind of play with the technology. But I didn't, I was like I was out of the loop with the Twitch thing. And that was the other part of it. It's like learning what's the technology that people are using the most. And
Twitch is
unfortunately, the,
huge.
the kind of it is honestly it is, and as a DJ I really got to start to like dip into that because I know that you don't get dinged the same way on Twitch as you do Facebook. But that's the thing, like the audience part of it, like Facebook's got a stranglehold, especially me as like a 41-year-old guy. Like all all of my stuff's there, so
You
it's
already
just
have all
hard
the
to figure out.
followers over there and everything. Yeah, it's basically like starting over, you know, but it's also
Yeah.
there's ways to make revenue on Twitch. You know, you can find people from all over the world, you know. There's people who watch the stream who are from the Netherlands, Australia, Texas,
That's awesome.
California, all over the world. I've made friends just from streaming on Twitch. It's incredible. And I did mention that I was like it'd be really cool if Greg Vadnais was streaming on Twitch. He's got a cool setup, you know, and if you check it out, there's tons of streams that do exactly like you do with, you know.
Yeah, I gotta dip into it. Like I haven't. It is a cool platform, and it seems like we're super stable, and I do like I'm very aware of it as a presence, you know. It's just you get like this is my like old man thing. Like I'm still trying to like really understand how Instagram works. And
Yeah.
so sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I hand my phone to my kid and I'm like, hey, like I was like this, why, you know, make this go away or like fix this for me, you know, and he's got it and he kind of
Oh,
laughs about
kids are
that,
great
but
at it. Kids
they
know how to
are.
make content better than you or me. They'll be like, you need to remember to say like, comment, and subscribe, and you need to do this funny thing.
Right.
And I've had
I
conversations
went
with
through
that
the
about other people who are like my kids fucking know how to use it better than me and tell me how to make my YouTube videos and shit.
Well, I showed my kids how to use YouTube, and you know the funny thing is like they don't use computers the way that we do. Like they use their phone
Yep,
and the iPad.
tablets
But
and
like, dude, I came up. I was like, oh no, let's see. For legal purposes, we'll say like, I had a friend who torrent downloaded a lot of things and like got pretty deep into the world like that. Not the dark web stuff, but like right at, like rubbing shoulders with that, you know, and kind of like understanding right where the precipice of the legalities of things were, and
yeah,
especially as a musician, software is very expensive. So sometimes like musicians need to find ways to,
crack
you know,
versions of stuff,
I mean,
even with
it's a good
video
way,
editing and stuff like that too.
all of that, you know, and
Photoshop.
teaching yourself how to use these different programs, you know, I'm impressed by people that really know how to use Photoshop, but dude, give me a 5 minute video.
Yeah, YouTube can teach you how to do anything. YouTube taught me how to play basic guitar, dude. It taught me how to
Exactly.
make this stream that you're on now. I just watched some YouTube videos. Oh, how do I make this happen?
That
How can
that
I?
exactly. That's hang on
How
for
do
a
I
second.
change? How do I change my
I gotta
oil?
yell at my kid.
Okay, he's gonna yell at his kid.
What's going on up there? I use the mute button, but I can hear my dog barking, so that means my son's out there doing something. Uh, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of grab the shortest YouTube video and like figure out the task at hand, and you could fake your way through it.
Oh yeah, fake it till you
You
make
know,
it, dude.
that that's that's the entire way that I've that's my entire music career.
Same, dude. Same. I don't know shit, and I've gone up there and just made my way through it. And then people go like, "Oh, you did so good! Oh my god!" And you're just like, "Yep, yeah, yeah, yeah." You know, I played.
Yeah, I think, and that tells you most of the time. I mean, you're playing in your mind. You're playing for the musicians that are watching with a keen eye. But the
The
reality
people who
is,
know.
yeah, the people who know, like, and that's the thing about being a critic. Like, I'm a super cynical. Like, I am a super cynical asshole. Like about most things in my, but not outwardly. But like, I have that critic
Yeah,
in my head all the time, and so and that's why like I assume that's what's happening back at me. But most of the time when you talk to people, they're like, "That was great." I'm like, "No, it wasn't. You don't know." Like,
you should never say that. That's one of the things I learned. If somebody
no, I know,
compliments you, don't go be like, "Yeah, but I fucked up that part, and the drummer was a piece
I
of shit, and
know.
stop playing," because they don't know. The normal
They
people
don't
don't
know.
know.
No, I learned that lesson a long time ago, and taking compliments feels greedy, but like, man, like that's the thing that's that like evil ego thing that's being fed, the ego monster that we're all feeding, you know? I mean, like, you got to give it snacks.
I said that there's nothing wrong with a little bit of ego, you know, because ego builds confidence and yeah, it can get out of control, but like you want to have that, you know, if you're performing on stage, you want to be confident in yourself and have that ego because people want that. They want to see it, you know, and that's what a
Yeah,
performance is all about. They don't want to see somebody who's unsure of themselves and second guessing themselves, which we all
no,
do, you know, but when it comes to showtime, you put that shit aside.
exactly. And that's, you know, I think that like the rebirth of this performance thing that we're all in now is like a great time to reset and to say, okay, all right, I know, you get into habits. Like I get into habits. You get into like this almost a seasonal thing with the music where, okay, the season starts, shows start, and you start checking boxes, showing up, doing the thing. It's like, don't forget to have fun and don't take it for granted. And that's the one of the things that I'm kind of trying to like internalize now that shows are starting, even though I didn't feel super excited about doing it, and I am there now, but it's like, don't take it for granted, because you know maybe I'm still going through like a PTSD thing, but like they're just not having it, or having it like disappear. It's like, you know, what did that do? We won't know for a long time, but what did that do to performance? It turned everybody into like live streamers, and
Yeah,
that did. I mean, how much of that shit did you watch? Did you watch many of those?
live streams.
Yeah.
My friends Glowstick Willie. I don't know if you are familiar with Glowstick Willie. They started streaming on Twitch at the beginning of the pandemic, and just a few months ago they got partnered on Twitch, which is like the big thing to get partnered. And they're streaming. They're
Huh.
probably streaming right now for. Oh wait, maybe they don't stream on Fridays, but every night it's streaming for 200 to 400 people, and getting front page shows and
Yeah.
shit, just because they decided to take it to that level. And they've said like, oh, we're not going to go back to looking for shows, we're not going to ask for shows, but if people want to ask us, we'll play them, but otherwise we'll just fucking live stream because everybody wants to watch us there. And
Yeah.
they've brought concerts to living rooms, which nobody had ever done before. So it's kind
Yeah.
of a cool thing. It's a weird new thing, the digital age of music and shows and shit, but it's cool.
I, I've had a couple of friends that did really, really well with it, and then was just inundated. Hey, then I was just inundated with a bunch of streams that I just didn't care about, and I didn't want to be just another screen. I don't know. There was something about that for me. I think it's awesome if you can make it work, and I guess maybe doing it as a solo artist is hard. And I
Yeah.
had some ideas of doing some things. We do a festival out at my friend's farm, and they broadcasted it and do a really good job of the production out at Solo of the Lost Tamarack. I don't know if you've seen that name before, but that's Tim
I only
Freeman's
saw it
farm out in
because you were
Wolverine.
doing it.
Yeah, so they have like a 3 camera shoot, like full, like live stream. There's like a television studio production on one side and the audio engineering on the other, and it's put together all at once. It's like a television show that we do at my friend's barn, and it's so well done. It's so cool to see a production, but it takes a lot of people for that operation, anyways. And that I think that's a version that I like, because we were on stage and there were people in the barn and there actually was a show. But it's just hard to bring energy, even if you are doing something for. I can't comprehend there being hundreds of people on the other side of this. I like the one-on-one thing,
Right.
like this is comfortable for me, but I can't
You pour
feel.
your heart out, play a song. There's no applause. There's no nothing. But the chat's going off and everybody's clapping in the chat. Fucking rock on! Oh my god, that was so awesome. But you're
That's
not
true.
hearing it. But
I,
it's
I
still
gotta I
there.
guess I'd have to be a part of one of those to get that. And I've tried. I mean, I did a handful of them where I was like, you know, I've done the thing, as best I could do it. It just felt like, again, it felt like really kind of, I don't know, it was nerve wracking, and
Yeah.
lonely, and there wasn't that sense of I can't hide, because it's like it's all right here, like that's something that that's a default mode that I go into on stage sometimes too. Is like I just want to hide in the music, and like don't like being a drummer where I can be behind everybody and like nobody can see me, like that. That's very like comforting.
Yeah.
That gives you an ability to like, I don't know. It feels nice to be like, no one can see me. I'm just kind of back here doing my thing. It doesn't matter.
See, I like to be seen, so I've always been the opposite. I'm like, people need to see me. People need to hear me and see me. I'm on the front of the stage. I'm talking into the microphone. You're listening to John now.
Nice. That's a good. I mean, honestly, that's a good. That's a great thing to have on stage, and I can get there, but it's nice to not. It's nice for me, like, to not have to. I guess that's the balance between being a part of a band and being the only person on stage. It's just like, and I've gotten to that, like, this has been my intro for people, like the last couple of shows that I've had for Botala. Is like, hey, everyone, so this is a solo project, and I'm not used to being in front of people. So I'm just telling you what I do, and I might not talk to you the rest of the night, or maybe I'll check back in, but I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself, and that sort of thing. And I've seen some like smiles and some like, people are like, okay, cool. They're on board with it. I think they can tell that it's kind of like, because I'm not doing anything. Well, and I'm not doing anything flashy with the DJ thing. Like, it really, I'm conflicted about what that is.
And that's how you think. That's not how everybody perceives it. Because I watch your shit, I'm like, this is fun, this is cool. Like, if I was chilling and drinking at a bar, I'd be vibing, and that's what it serves its purpose for.
And I just got to get there because, like, again, it is, and we keep kind of circling that self-critic thing. Like, it's just, it's that sense of like, I know what this is, and if I know what this is, then they know what this is. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I didn't come up, like, I'm not a part of that DJ world. So I'm really careful. That's why I didn't use a name with the word DJ in it, because I know that they're precious about what that is. And I don't want to, and I have respect for that, like, genre. And I don't want to pretend.
You call it electronic. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about, how do I explain you? Botala is electronic African drum circle melodies and stuff. Like, it was a struggle for me to be like, how do I explain what fucking Greg does?
It's like world music. What do I say? It's world music influenced electro something. I actually have a description, like a 2-sentence. Yeah, I have a 2-sentence description, but even that description changes depending on the gig. Because I've got a gig in Petoskey at the park I did last year, and it feels weird to DJ at noon in a gazebo in Petoskey. So I have like an acoustic version of this project where I loop balafone and I have like my drum pad thing that sets up the rhythm stuff, and then even then, I'm just kind of playing melodic instruments over top of some loops and some tracks. But over an hour I can throw like an acoustic set together that's still true to the like electronic aspect of the project. But I use that name's kind of interchangeable for all these different applications depending on what the show is. But this year, for pretty much any Botala project that I do this year, it's going to be like a DJ thing with probably 75% of it is world music, and then 25% is like cool neo soul, funk, British jazz, R&B stuff. Because there's a really cool thing going on in London with the jazz scene right now, where they're implementing like neo soul sounds and R&B and world music, and it's just like a great bridge between what the producers that I use have done and what the sound that I really enjoy. So it's cool to find. It's cool to find stuff where you're like, oh, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it out there.
Yeah, dude. So you want to hear my intro for Tuesday night open mic? I host open mic, and this is the intro.
Okay.
Hello, Union Street Station. Welcome to Tuesday night. Are you ready? Something like that. Bring the heat and the energy, I get the people pumped up. It's open mic, but it's like, come at it like a rock show,
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
makes me
seeing
just
if I
be
did
more
that.
comfortable to yell, you know, and I feel like if I'm yelling, more people are gonna be like, "Yeah, yelling."
Yeah, and if I yell and then I bring it way back down to, I bring it back down to like whatever. Yeah, I feel like that's a high bar for me to set to yell. I'd be a lot more prone to that if I had a drum set in front of me.
It's all about being a hype man, you know. You gotta hype the people up. Yeah, if you know, I've got my bass in my hand,
Well,
I got the microphone, the lights are on, lights are on my face, I can't see anybody. That helps me a
yeah, you're
lot
on a
too.
stage. Yeah, definitely. You know what I've done actually in the past, two of the other well, not two, like I have a bevy of women that I hire that are dancers for different shows. So I'll have like at the beginning of a show, sometimes I'll do a dance like instruction portion. So for like half an hour, I'll have dancers kind of like give people moves and things like that
That's
before I
dope.
start playing, so that it gets people on the dance floor and like, and I got like cute girls getting people out there. And actually the very first show that I did for that project, I went to, have you been to the Hamtramck Music Festival?
No,
Do you know about that?
no, I
Dude, that's
don't.
one that you got to look that up. Write that down because that's a music festival that
Well,
you
send me a
should be
you
involved
send me
in.
a link when we're done with this.
I will. It's open. They're so open, man. I booked that festival without any like, I had nothing to show them. It was just an email of like, this is what I do, and they're like, oh, that sounds cool. What do you think about going at this time? And I'm like, okay. So they have all around Hamtramck. They've got like venues throughout the day or the weekend where at a certain time you'll be at whatever building, and whoever's there will check you out. So I hired one of my friends who's a dancer from the West African scene down there, and she like showed up in costume with makeup on, and she just like was out on the dance floor dancing to everything I played, and it just made it something and I
Yeah,
was just like, oh, this is like, if she wouldn't have been there, it would have been so weird because I had never brought my shit out of the basement before. I didn't know what I was doing. So to have her there and to like interact with the audience and then get people like kind of thinking, okay, this is a thing. I was like, oh, thank God. So then from doing that, ever since then, whenever I do something where I think that it might be kind of weird, I'm like, I'll call one of my friends who's a dancer. I'm like, hey, can you want to come and do like a dance thing with me? And it's every time I've done that, it's been really cool. So I've
it
done that
just
in
adds a whole
Lansing,
other
and
element, you know. It sounds
it
cool.
does, it does, it is,
It sounds like it
and
goes
there's
with
like,
what you're doing really well too, you know.
it does because dance like drum, like when I say drum and dance, like that's a big, that the tradition of that music is drums with dances, and those like there's names for the dances and there's names for those rhythms, and like so the dancers know that stuff, and like they're, especially people that have like studied dance or that are in that world, like they know what that is. So that that tends to like connect with other groups that are out in these at these shows that you don't realize are there. But if they know that there's a dancer or that there's a dance component to it, they're like, oh, that, I know how to do that. I know what that is, and it can turn it into something that maybe it wouldn't have been, without that part of it. And you know, and I've tried to, sometimes I've tried to like book it, selling it that way, and then you get there and people don't care, or they do. But actually the workshop's been a great place for me because there's a big contingent of like Central and South American people in, the Traverse City area, and they've come out. Dude, I've had like 30 people from Central and South America that all know, like they know the stuff I play, they know the dance, they know the rhythms and everything, and there's like a packed dance floor of Latin people loving it, and I'm just like, oh, thank God,
And
like
that's what
this
it's all
is,
about, dude. And
yeah,
that means you're doing something cool,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
been sweet. Yeah, that's been really awesome, and I've been trying to get back over there. I just started touching base with them again because I've got another side project that's kind of coming up that I think I'm going to get over there, and I haven't reached out because I've been lazy. I just haven't cared that
It's okay,
much,
dude.
but
There's
I need
plenty
to
of
get back over
time,
there.
dude. Things are just starting again. We don't gotta rush right
Exactly.
into this. The shows will come when you're ready to. When you're feeling it.
I hope so. Well, that's what, I stay on the radar. I just haven't been over there in a while.
Let's go ahead and talk about your upcoming shows. What can we expect to see from
Cool.
Greg Vadnais this summer?
So like I also run a concert series in Gaylord. So next Wednesday, we've got a band. Look at my calendar. What the hell am I doing here? Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, next Wednesday, Drew Hale Band is at Sojourn Lakeside Resort. I'm the concert manager for that. That's like a cool outdoor show midweek, and then every other Thursday I'm at Ernesto's Cigar Bar with the Jazz Quartet. That's in Petoskey. So
I'd
next
love to
Thursday
make
I'm
one of those
there.
shows, but I work Thursdays, so it's hard.
Yeah, and I mean, there half the guys I play with play at the workshop. I'll make it over to the workshop one of these days, but I can't book myself as a jazz band at the workshop because there's different people have different turf. I'll get in a knife fight if I try and book a jazz gig over there.
Yeah, well, like Don Julian and all them.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of old sour pusses over there that don't hire old Greggy. I bust balls now because I'm like, hey, dude, honestly don't give a shit. If I mean, there's some sweet there's a lot of great people. I don't have I don't have the chip on my shoulder that it sounds like, but there's plenty other people to hire than me over there, and that's deafeningly clear to me. Botala in the Petoskey in the park at the workshop. Oh, I might be over there on the 9th for Cherry Fest, but I don't know if I actually committed to that because that sounds like it's a midday thing. Yeah, dude, I'll be in Petoskey and Gaylord at Benetham's with the quartet, and then Sheboygan and my cousin's wedding, and nothing in Traverse
That
City,
counts.
unfortunately.
Well, we'll make it out to see
Yeah,
one of your shows here soon. It's not too long
yeah,
away.
I will say this. I put my monthly music schedule on my personal page, which is Greg Vadnais, just my name. And then the Botala page, I keep all the Botala dates on there too, but like my monthly dates will all be on my page the whole time. So, things come up occasionally, but I think that I'm just going to do, I got a couple things a week and then this concert series that's once a month. And then that allows me to take sort of last minute gigs and stuff like that do come up pretty often because I know so many great musicians that like I've been lucky to play with and that I'm happy to know, and I'm always I think one of the words I used when I describe myself to you is I'm a catalyst. If I can find somebody that I know works better than myself in a project, I'll always send them that way. So like I try to like be a crossing guard for the music scene as much as I try to stay busy. I try to like make sure that people find each other because there's great musicians over there and there's great musicians up here and there's all this cool stuff going on. So I try to be a useful member of the music community as a guide and as like a producer guy as much as I try to be a player. So
That's
I hope
huge.
to be that guy for everybody. Yeah, yeah, man. And you are awesome for doing this, and I think you have a great chemistry for this. And I knew when I sat next to you and we met the first time, I was like, man, he was a really fucking cool guy. And so I'm super happy to see you doing this, man, because I think that it's important as many conversations as musicians can have with each other. You're going to get turned on to stuff, and it just helps us feel
Yeah.
like this is a real thing, and we're not just jerking ourselves off and waiting for our once a week time to go and like pack a car up and go play. So it's important to talk about it and to like share
And
these
I've
experiences.
thank you for saying that, man. I appreciate it a lot. And I've had these few moments. Like I said, I just started doing this because I decided I was like, well, what do? I really like to talk to people, and I like to ask people questions and get them to open up and tell me about themselves. and I've had conversations on stream with people where I forgot completely about that it even happened, and people have approached me and been like, I watched the podcast and you had this conversation with this person or whatever, and you talked about this, and they like are reciting the conversations I had that I don't even remember. I'm like, if you remember it, like, you know, then I did my job, you know, if it touched you
Yeah, that's
to the
awesome.
point where you
And the fact
thought
that you
about
got,
it and remembered it.
yeah, man, and if the fact that you got people watching and retaining it, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's
Definitely
everything.
keep
Makes it
going
all
with
worth
it,
it.
and don't get lazy. Keep going with it, man.
No, I know, and I have. I've got, you know, I keep thinking, like, you get those moments where it's just like the music thing, like, how am I gonna keep getting guests? How am I gonna keep expanding this and whatever? And I wake up on Fridays and stuff, and I'm like, shit, I have to get ready for the podcast, but I have so much other stuff to do. But you don't. You just keep sucking it up
It's
and keep
so
going.
think about other than musicians, you've got there are people that run studios around here. There's you know there's teachers, there's like music teachers and instructors. There's the bookers, there's people that book gigs, and sound people. Sound engineers would be great. Talk to
And
some of
I
those
and
guys.
performers in general, you know, I had a glass blower come on
Yeah.
and make me a glass
Yeah,
pipe
dude.
on stream,
Awesome. That's awesome.
I have an artist book for the next week, and you know, I've had comedians come on, like anybody who does performing and want or has work that they want to show off. That's what I think this podcast is for, you know, showing off my friends' work
Awesome.
who do really cool shit.
So cool. So
It is
cool.
cool, and you're part of it, you know. And I've been more than happy to have you on, man, and share what you do. And like I said, if even you turn one person onto my stream, or if I turn one of my people on to you, and you get a new sub or whatever for me, then like I said, I feel like, you know, I've done something.
Well, you got me to log back into my Twitch account that I forgot that I had, so
Right. Yeah. That's something in itself.
definitely, man. No, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Let's go ahead and tell them where we can find Greg Vadnais, Botala, and your music. Where's the best place to follow you or look you up?
I've Facebook, my name, Greg Vadnais Botala, has its own Facebook page, and then I've got I have a website I need to update, but it's pretty up to date. It's
It
got most
looks
of my
good.
projects
Your
on it.
website looks
Greg,
good.
yeah, thanks, man. I used one of the free sites, and I just tried to keep it simple. I just got to put my dates. I gotta update it with my calendar. But yeah, gregvadnaimusic.com is my website, and then just Facebook. My name, and that's kind of like the best spot to like catch catch the music stuff for sure. So those are where to find me. And then out there in northern Michigan in the summertime, man, watch out.
Watch out.
A lot of music.
I can't wait, Greg. I can't wait to catch you in person and catch a show and have some drinks and
We'll have a
catch
beer
up.
next time I'm over there, man. I'll rush the stage and you'll have to kick me off.
Yeah, come on down to open mic and jam with us, man.
I need to. I need to.
Really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you've got things that you need to get to. You got kids and stuff. I got an early day tomorrow. I'd love to sit here and talk all night.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. You're more than welcome to come back on to the Stay Awake Squadcast anytime, sir.
All right, buddy. Take care. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Greg Vadnais, everybody! Of Botala and the GV's quartet. We'll be seeing more from you.
See ya.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Take care, man.
There you have it, everybody. Episode 11 of the Stay Awake Squadcast with Greg Vadnais. Zenway of Harmony, you made it just in time for the end. Another incredible episode of the Stay Awake Squadcast, guys. Go follow Greg Vadnais. He's a good dude. He's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of time put into the music world here in Michigan, and he does a lot for the community and the scene. And he's a hell of a percussionist, and we hope to be hearing from him soon. Really appreciate him coming on and talking with us.